Entering the Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
This is the Week 4 NFL Cheat Sheet presented by Underdog. What we're going to do is go over the injuries, the updated rankings, props, underdog plays for the Pick'em game, plus all of the DK ownership pivots and projections that you need. If you do not want to watch the video, you can watch the audio version. Well, listen to the audio version. Apple and Spotify, Pat Mayo Experience, boom, that easy. Or if you go to 4for4.com right now, you can find this in easy to read cheat sheet form. You know, you just like reading instead of listening to me talking to you, you can do that, or you can just get it sent for free to you by subscribing to the Mayo Media newsletter. All of that is down in the description, along with the updated injury report and Week 4 rankings. And you can just hit the description and choose the time codes you want for the information that you want to hear. Enough time on that. Let's get to it. Jaylen Warren is in for the Dublin game against the Minnesota Vikings. Do not love Warren in this spot. He's still a top 20 running back for the week. However, they did elevate Trey Sermon for this game. They did that last week too, so it has nothing to do with Jaylen Warren. Probably something to do with old Caleb, how they don't want to give him any run. It's going to be Warren, then Gainwell, then Sermon out of the backfield, more than likely. I like the under on his rushing prop for the week. Tyrone Tracy is out 2 to 4 weeks with a separated shoulder. Cam Scadaboo is running back 16 in the running back rankings for half-point PPR. Once again, full list down in the description. Updated to the moment right now, updated him again on Sunday morning. Devin Singletary will work as the backup against the Los Angeles Chargers. Aaron Jones still on injured reserve at least 3 more weeks. Jordan Mason in that Dublin game opposite Jaylen Warren. Running back number 8 for the week. Xavier Scott number 44. If you think it's going to be a blowout and Minnesota as a 2-point favorite wins by 50 points again like they did last week, Xavier Scott is a capable flex option. I would not go there, but if you have a better feel for this game than I do, that you do think it's going to be a blowout, I would see some Scott in that game. Neil Shipley is in for the Philadelphia Eagles. He returns from his Week 1 ribs injury. He'll back up Saquon Barkley, so we really won't see any A.J. Dillon or Tank Bigsby outside of special teams or maybe the odd passing down snap if they need a blocker in the backfield. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt did not practice Wednesday or Thursday, but did get back in on Friday. He's likely good to go. He's at running back number 29. Chris Rodriguez is at number 35, and Jeremy McNichols, who was the best of the bunch last week, is at 46 in this matchup against the Falcons. Stuff got so out of control early in that game for Washington against the Raiders last week that it really screwed up a lot of the snap shares. You'd think that they would want to keep the ball on the ground with no Terry McLaurin, no Jaden Daniels, no Noah Brown. You got 3 capable running backs to go through that. If they can do it against Atlanta, if they do not fall behind, expect a lot of running in this game. Who's going to get the goal line touches, the passes out of the backfield? This, we do not know. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt looks like the best of the bunch, but we cannot trust that workload. We trust him to be the best talent of them, but sometimes that's not good enough for fantasy purposes, so running back number 29, a low-end flex, a low-end running back number 2, depending on the size of your league. But if you had to pick between the other two and you needed someone to play, it would be Chris Rodriguez for me. Moving over to the wide receivers. Davante Adams has a hamstring injury. He's currently wide receiver number 11, and it looks like he's leaning into play. He's an older dude. He's got a hamstring injury that usually does not go well, and this is going to be in the later set of games against Indianapolis. So just have your precaution set to medium. Amber alert on this one. Actually, I have no idea what those alerts mean. Maybe Amber Alert is like the highest. I have no idea. But just keep it on your radar. It would be Tutu Atwell, who I do think would fill in for Davante Adams on the outside. We've kind of seen the role for Jordan Whittington in this spot. So if Adams doesn't go, I think that Tutu would be the replacement that you would want for him if you have no better options. It would make him a very low-end wide receiver 3 flex, somewhere inside the top 45 at wide receiver rankings with a lot of boom, but a lot of bust potential as well. For San Francisco, Juwan Jennings is dealing with that ankle injury. He did get in a limited practice on Friday, ditto like he did against the Saints 2 weeks ago when he did play, obviously did not play a week ago, and he did not get in that limited practice. So I do have him in the rankings. For the moment, Ricky Purcell, old Ricky Bullett's kind of the same way, that he is questionable. He's probably going to play. Demarcus Robinson is eligible to return from his suspension for the 49ers as well. So I wouldn't play Demarcus Robinson in this matchup, but I have Jennings at wide receiver number 25 and Ricky Purcell at wide receiver number number 26, both just outside of the wide receiver number 2 area. Whenever Juwan Jennings gets a chance to play, he is the lead target in this offense whenever Brandon Ayuk is off the field. So I'd go Jennings over Ricky Bullets, but it's very, very close in this circumstance. CeeDee Lamb's going to be out at least 2 weeks, probably more than 4, although Jerry Jones says they're not putting him on injured reserve, although the Saints didn't put Chase Young on injured reserve either, and he's not playing again this week, so they may as well. They've used a roster spot when they could have just put him on injured reserve because he never played in the first place. So, I mean, it's Dallas. Who knows what's going on with them? In lieu of CeeDee Lamb being on the field, George Pickens is wide receiver number 22 in a bad matchup against the Green Bay Packers. Turpin I have in at number 58. He does get that special teams work, so maybe in a desperation play, you could try to sneak out a touchdown that way. But it's Jalen Tolbert who should see the biggest boost, but it's a terrible matchup, and I have him at wide receiver number 55. He should get a bunch of targets. It's really Jake Ferguson that's probably the better option out of any of these guys this week, outside of Pickens, who's going to be a target monster. It's just, what does he do with it? Maybe he gets enough volume to make him a low-end wide receiver 2. Maybe he catches a touchdown, and he's a low-end wide receiver 1. But in spite of that touchdown, the volume should be there enough to trust him for a good, if not great, game this week against the Packers. Let's go to Tampa Bay. They're taking on Philly. Mike Evans is out 2 to 4 weeks with a hamstring injury. So, I mean, him and Devontae Adams aren't that far apart in age, but whenever Mike Evans gets a hamstring injury, he's on the sidelines. Good news, though, Chris Godwin shall be back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week, although I don't know how healthy that he's going to be. Tristan Wirfs also back. Should help out the running game and Bucky for the Buccaneers as well. That's been a real problem for them so far this season, getting their run game ignited just because Wirfs hasn't been around. He is by far their best offensive lineman. Should help out Baker, too, who was on the injury report. He's going to play as well. I have Egbuka at number 13, who was dealing with a few injuries of his own a week ago. Godwin comes in at number 52. If you're in pure desperation and you think he's 100%, roll him out there, despite it not being a great matchup against the Eagles. I'm just a bit more hesitant going into week number 4 that Godwin, who hasn't played a snap so far this season, is just going to come back hitting the ground running. Ditto in Kansas City, Xavier Worthy is expected to play, but he might be limited wearing a harness on his shoulder. That could be pure coach speak. I have no idea how many snaps he's going to play, how good he's going to look. He does have enough upside in this offense as their potential number 1 that I do have him at wide receiver number 37 this week. So I would play Worthy over Godwin. I still have Tyquan Thornton as the number 1 Kansas City wide receiver this week, only because of his ADOT. He's the only guy who doesn't run routes 2 yards downfield. He actually runs down the field. So over Tyquan Thornton, longest reception, as we play every week, should end up coming to fruition once again, and he can get you those bulk plays and those long touchdowns. It only takes 1 for him, as we've seen, to get behind the defense, score that touchdown. It's well worth what he's doing this week. So he's a low-end wide receiver 3, number 34 in the wide receiver rankings. Hollywood Brown comes in at number 54. I'm not playing him. If you want to play him, go nuts. It's really not for me. Again, on Washington, Terry McLaurin, as mentioned, is not playing with this quad injury. They're saying he's not going to go on injured reserve, but they also said earlier this week, at the beginning of the week, now coming out of the game, he's going to be fine. Well, now he's not. He's not playing. Probably going to miss multiple weeks. Might need surgery, so he's probably going to go on injured reserve, so keep that in mind. Noah Brown not playing this game either. This is a very difficult situation to work out of who's going to get this playing time. Now, because Washington jumped out to that huge lead on Vegas last week, and then it got tighter towards the end of the game, Debo only played 43% of the snaps because it was a blowout most of the time. Like, hey, let's keep Debo fresh here. Let's get him on the sidelines. So none of the corresponding snap percentages and routes run from that offense with Marcus Mariota at quarterback, which we're going to see again, really play much into how this is going to work out. Jalen Lane is the most explosive of all these guys. He only played 24% of the snaps last week. Does that mean he's going to start this week? Do they keep him on the sidelines? He dropped a touchdown. He almost returned a touchdown in the kickoff game. So at least we know his explosion is there. They just don't trust him. Chris Moore was actually the one who played the most snaps at 57% a week ago against Vegas. So against Atlanta, he's the most likely to play on the outside based on history of where Terry McLaurin lines up. Unless they bump Lane out or Luke McCaffrey up, those guys are mainly slot options. So someone's going to have to play on the outside. The most logical person is Chris Moore. Then it would be Jalen Lane in that circumstance. So Chris Moore, as long as his over-under receptions are like 1.5, 2.5, that might be a really good look here. I do know that they want to run the ball, but if Atlanta can just score in this game, which they might not be able to do. We saw them score 0 points a week ago with Penix against Carolina, so this, albeit a banged-up defense for the Commanders, a better defense than the Carolina Panthers. As long as they have to pass more than 20 times in this game, Chris Moore should see a few targets. So if you need someone, it would be Chris Moore. Do not expect much out of him, though. It's a pure desperation play or a really low-odds prop play if that's the market that you want to hit. Alec Pierce is likely to be out with a concussion for the Colts against the Rams. I have Pittman at 35, Downs at number 44. Frankly, it's Tyler Warren, the one I want to play against this Rams defense. Xavier Legette is out with a hamstring injury that has Ted McMillan at number 20, and then Hunter Renfrow at number 40. You're going to see Renfrow's name pop up a few times. We don't actually have. The books are being cowards and will not release props on Hunter Renfrow. Smashed him in week 2. We ended up with 7 receptions and 2 touchdowns. Going back to the well this week, Christian Gonzalez is likely back from his hamstring injury for the New England Patriots. That is great news for the Patriots, not great news for Ted McMillan in this spot. That's why he's all the way down at 20 in what should be a very pass-happy situation, and the other receiver starting across the field from him being out for this game. I have Renfrow at 40 because tight end allows a league-high 9.5 yards per attempt to the slot. Renfrow runs 82.5 of his routes so far this season for Carolina from the slot. It is a great matchup not only for him, but also for Tommy Tremble, who we'll get to in a minute, who is going to be filling in for Jatavion Sanders, who's also out for Carolina with a high ankle sprain in this game. Jordan Addison is returning for the Minnesota Vikings from his suspension. That will be over in Dublin in the early game. I have him at number 48, almost like the other guys just coming back. Don't really know what to do with him. We know he has the big play potential. King Carson Wentz hit him. I mean, maybe Joey Porter ends up playing for the Steelers. Their defense looks a little bit better. A lot of unknowns. You're probably not relying on Addison. Even if he has a great game on your bench, at least you're excited that you might actually have someone to put in your lineup now. Diami Brown is leaning in for the Jags with a shoulder injury. I prefer Parker Washington in this spot. Parker Washington over Diami Brown. Parker Washington over Travis Hunter against the Niners in this game, only behind Brian Thomas Jr. Again, you can hit the full rankings and see the updated list for free down in the description right now. Click that link. All right, smash the like and sub to the channel while you're here. Tell some friends about the Pat Mayo experience. That'd be very nice if you would do that for me. So thank you. Jatavion Sanders, as mentioned, is out 2 to 4 weeks. Tommy Tremble should get full run. His over-under for receptions is 2.5 right now. Is not a bad look. If you can find a book with pretty good juice on that, we'll try to find it when it pops on Underdog as well. Michael Mayer is out for the Las Vegas Raiders with a concussion. Will Disley is out for the Chargers against the Giants. Oronde Gadsden is a better DFS play than a streamer for fantasy leagues because he's close to the minimum price. There are simply just other options. Unless you have a very good feeling for old Oronde against the Giants, that you probably have better options here. George Kittle is out at least another 1 to 4 weeks with that hamstring injury. Again, that's why I'm worried about Devontae Adams. Is everyone has hamstring injuries and they're not playing, yet somehow Devontae Adams has one. He's fine. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. I'm not really too concerned about filling in of any of the 49ers tight ends at the moment. Isaiah Likely is leaning in against the Chiefs for the Ravens, so I hope you enjoyed your great Mark Andrews game. Now he's going back to in a 3-way timeshare at tight end with Likely and Charlie Kohler, so not great. Noah Fant is leaning out for Monday Night Football against Denver on Cincinnati with a concussion that makes Mike Gesicki a fringe top 20 option, but you're not holding out for the final game just to see if Noah Fant sits. So you can pick up Mike Gesicki. And there's where Oronde comes in. If it's between Gesicki and Oronde, just play Oronde in that spot. Tyler Higbee is leaning in with a hip injury. No word yet on Colston Loveland in that game against Vegas, whether or not he's going to go. Evan Ingram is in, at least according to him, for Monday Night Football. And again on Monday Night Football, Darren Waller. Yeah, remember him from 80 years ago? Looks like he might play this week with his hip injury for the Miami Dolphins against the New York Jumbo Jets. Quarterback injuries. Jaden Daniels is out at least another week. Mariota number 13 in the quarterback rankings. JJ McCarthy is not going to be playing over in Ireland. He's still out 1 to 4 weeks with this ankle injury. I doubt we see him until they come back from Europe. They're there again next week. So I have Wentz at quarterback number 26. Justin Fields is in on Monday Night Football for the Jets. I got him at 17. And Brock Purdy is back for the San Francisco 49ers. He is at quarterback number 11 this week. Maybe I'm a bit low on Justin Fields at 17. I do not trust a guy, especially coming off a concussion. Unless the concussion helps him make like good decisions from the previous bad decisions that he used to make. But he can always get there with his legs, especially against a bad Miami defense. I might rethink that one and bump him up into that like Brock Purdy range of low-end QB1, just because of the upside that comes along with it. As mentioned, Christian Gonzalez is back for the Patriots. Bad news for Tet and anyone who patrols the outside against him. Tristan Wirfs with his knee injury likely back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. So good news for the running game and pass protection. AJ Terrell is still out with this hamstring injury. He hasn't played yet this year with the hamstring. Devontae Adams, he's going to play okay. It's a fake injury. Maybe that's why he's playing. But he's out again for the Falcons. He could return next week. And as mentioned off the top, Chase Young still out. So he will not be playing against the Buffalo Bills. Now that I'm old, I've had to come to the fact that I just don't bounce back the way that I used to. I don't wake up in the morning feeling normal. And now that football season has started, that is absolutely unacceptable, because I got work to do in the morning, and I got kids that are waking up. It's no good. But that isn't a problem anymore, because I found ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. The ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic, invented by PhD scientists to tackle the rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for the rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol the first drink of your night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel the best tomorrow. Go to zbiotics.com/PatMayo to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use PatMayo at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund you your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/PatMayo and use the code PatMayo at checkout for 15% off. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/PatMayo and get on your way to being your best self. Sometimes we turn to some funny places for support, but not everyone's a therapist. Not everyone is the one. Find your right match with BetterHelp. What you need to do is actually talk to a quality therapist, and BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the United States. It's also completely online. You can pause your subscription whenever you need to and switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Find the one with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/PatMayo. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PatMayo. Johnnie Walker, a brand synonymous with the game of golf for over a century, is bringing bold energy to golf's fiercest stage and ultimate rivalry with the Spirit of the Cup, a fan-first program that celebrates national pride, fandom, and the relentless spirit of competition. The program invites a new generation of fans to experience golf through modern rituals, bold collaborations, and culture-forward experiences. Leading into the tournament weekend, Johnnie Walker will bring the Spirit of the Cup tour to the streets of New York City from Wednesday, September 24th through Sunday, September 28th. As a part of Johnnie Walker's commitment to making golf straight up more fun, the experience is open to the public, offering golf lovers and inspiring golfers to chip their way to glory while sipping signature Johnnie Walker cocktails. Drink responsibly. Let's get going on the props. You can get a deposit bonus down in the description at Coolbet right now. Sports 200, if that's the way that you're looking at it. If you're in Canada outside of Ontario, you can play in the weekly PME weekly boost. I got them up here on the tab. I got two for this week, and these are I was able to get some adjusted down. So as I mentioned with Jaylen Warren, I like his under. So I have under 60.5 rushing yards. Chuba Hubbard against a very good Patriots run defense, under 60.5 rushing yards as well. Houston and Tennessee, two of the worst offensive lines and the most sacked quarterbacks in football, over 5.5 sacks in that game. And because the pressure is coming, Cam Ward over 1.5 rushing attempts. Those four hit, we get 6 times our money. 6-1 is what the payout is looking like on that. And if you do want to get it on a Sunday Night Football boost right now, I have the Green Bay Packers alternate spread of -10.5. I really like the Packers this week, as does the world, so watch me look foolish here. against the Cowboys at 2-1 to cover the 10.5. I have a big bet at -6.5, and now I'll get back in at -10.5 at Cool Bet right now. But if you can't get on there, let's go over to Underdog and see what I got cooking. I have a very similar type one. Now, I didn't use any alternate lines for this, and I might end up doing a same game parlay of just the Dublin game, which I will release either in the newsletter a little bit later on, but you can get the direct link to this one play. It pays 12.72 to 1. Puka Nacua, I have him as my number one rated wide receiver this week, 87.5 receiving yards higher. Chuba Hubbard, I had the under 60.5. I also like the under of 51.5 rushing yards for him against the Patriots. And he is a bit banged up coming into this game as well. So maybe we end up seeing more of Rico Dowdle in this spot, especially if Carolina falls behind. And I mean, as 5.5-point favorites, that is what we do expect. So Hubbard in the passing game, sure. On the ground, not so much against a good run defense. Jacoby Myers in a potential shootout game at home did not get there last week. In comeback mode, it was all Trey Tucker. I would expect the most consistent receiver on the Raiders to get back on track. 64.5 receiving yards in that spot. And Cam Ward in the cool bet one, we had 1.5 rushing attempts. That was adjusted down. 4 attempts and 3 attempts each of the past 2 weeks for Cam Ward after none in week 1. 3 seems to be his floor at the moment. Let's hope that persists, because this one you actually get a bit of a bonus on, 0.1.04 on Underdog for the higher of 2.5 rushing attempts. You see the payout details. 100 pays 1,272 on that, so 12.72. Now, if you are new to Underdog and you use code Mayo, and you can get that link in the newsletter along with the actual tail to this, you can get a free pick of Dak Prescott at, for Sunday Night Football to double the odds on this. That will take it up to over 25 to 1. And for any $5 entry that you play, your first $5 entry play, if you are a new player at Underdog, you will get a free $100 in bonus funds right away. Doesn't matter, win or lose, so you can get that. So just play this, add on the free pick, play a $5 entry. You're guaranteed 100 anyway with code Mayo, and maybe you'll win 25 times your money on top of that. I played the same entry, but I also added Jaylen Warren lower than 52.5 rushing yards in that early game as well. There's actually a few plays in that game I actually like. I like Jordan Mason over. I like TJ Hawkinson over. I like Jaylen Warren under. And then we'll figure out the rest from there. Maybe even some Josh Oliver at giant odds as first touchdown. Wentz looked his way last week. He scored the first touchdown. Pittsburgh has struggled bigly against tight ends so far this season. So that's what we're looking at there. And you can take a look at the projections up on the SharpStack app right now if that's a way that you like to go through everything. We'll just take a look at the projections. We can take a look at what we're seeing from someone like Jaylen Warren in that game. This is all a part of the SharpStack app. Code Mayo50 will get you 50% off the monthly plan right now. Chuba Hubbard rushing yards, so the projections have him lower than the 52.5 at 47.8. Yeah, I got to find Jaylen Warren here. Where are you at, Jaylen Warren? Jaylen Warren, 50.3. So they're a bit more bullish on Jaylen Warren than I am. So right around 14 carries, 450 yards. Now, I don't think that Minnesota blows them out, but I really do like Minnesota in that Dublin game. So if I think they can hop out to a lead early and not completely stifle Carson Wentz, then I'm looking at probably 10 carries and not 14 carries against a very good run defense in a negative game script. The 3.5 catches for 27 yards. He could get higher than that if that's a way that you really wanted to play it, because I think that's really where his true value ends up coming in. Like, I would much rather play, as my rankings will reflect, Travis Etienne over Jaylen Warren at running back this week. I think that Etienne is going to be leaned on a lot. King Tutin's dealing with a little bit of an injury problem, so if we can just get Etienne some of the work near the goal line, then it's a good look for him. But one thing that, listen, I felt like I had great leans last week, and I went 2-5 on the Underdog plays that I gave out. You know, if they didn't go 7-0 on a 7-bagger, I could have went 6-1 and lost anyway, but 2-5 is not so good. And that was my gut feelings. These are the 4 that I gave out already are the ones that I really like. You know, Warren, Hubbard. We did go 3-1 in the props on the weekly boost, but again, 3-1, not good enough to win on the boost. You need to go 4 for 4. So Warren, Hubbard, over sacks, and Cam Ward rushing attempts. If we just use the computer, which is probably the sensible move in this situation. Some of the looks that we're getting right now. Hollywood Brown in a revenge situation against the Baltimore Ravens, under 46.5 receiving yards, -110. That is at Hard Rock right now, is the highest rated prop on the board. Now, these update in real time, so when odds get shifted, money gets changed, you'll want to come back to the SharpStack app. Once again, code Mayo50 to get 50% off, and a free week, by the way. If it's a free trial, you can try this out. It has everything on here. You got your pick'em screen, you got your projection screen, you got your odds screen for every game, the prop screen where you can go game by game and check everything out. Have they populated my stupid Renfro props yet? Let's find out. Where are you at? New England and Carolina. Receiving yards. Find out where the best line is. Receptions. Come on. No, they're not doing it for me. Not yet. So you can find the best line on Tommy Tremble, who I do like, -135. So that over is pretty popular. It's not just me. We can all lose together if it doesn't hit, because I am certainly not the only one on that. I still don't see Hunter Renfrow odds yet. No one has the guts to put it up, but I will be waiting in order to pounce when it's like 3.5, because he's going to end up with like 6 catches for 57 yards. That's probably the week that Hunter Renfrow ends up going for you. I like him more on the receptions more than I like him on the yardage. But then you have your overall EV tool. And you can just scroll through any of the ones you want. You can put in any. We put in receptions. We can put in rushing attempts, rushing yards. I didn't have those highlighted for some reason. Interceptions thrown, longest reception, passing attempts, passing completions. We can put longest pass completion. You can filter out all of the odds that you want. I don't put anytime touchdown score into that because that's really not going to help me out. Then we can resort by EV. So now Ollie Gordon over 20.5 rushing yards at BetMGM is now the highest EV play. Then it's Hollywood Brown. Then it's Juju at Fanatics under 20.5. One thing you'll find with the computer, it loves an under, which, unders hit more often. They're not fun to bet, but unders hit more often than over. So when you get a little bit of it on the go, you're probably pretty good. Kevontae Turpin, who I talked about earlier, this one's at Profit X. 29.5 is the under on his receiving yards right now. Matthew Golden, longest reception. I mean, ball knowing, and this is because it's juiced up to +111. So for a $100 bet, you get $111. I actually like the over for Matthew Golden, longest reception. I just think that Green Bay is going to attack down the field. Now, whether it's with Golden, Dobbs, Wicks, Kraft, who knows? They do like to take these shots with Golden. If you can find a Savion Williams or a Matthew Golden rushing prop, I haven't found any as of yet. Actually, let's go to the prop screen, see if anyone is offering this right now. See, this is why this tool is so great. And you can always just play along with the projections. You can go sort screen by screen to find players that you do like with the median projections. We have each of the stats in here as well, and then you can just go to either your book, go back to the prop screen to figure anything out that you want. So we're going to go to Dallas and Green Bay. Rushing attempts in this game. They got Turpin 1.5. Actually, I can see that one hitting. If you can find a book that is willing to offer Savion Williams and or Matthew Golden rushing attempts, I like both of those looks for the Green Bay Packers over if it's 0.5. Even if it's Savion Williams, 1.5. This is how they like to get him involved. And obviously know Jaden Reed that there's just more opportunities for these receivers to go around. We don't know how condensed it's going to end up being, but that's what I'm seeing at the moment for Green Bay, and we don't have any of those props up. Again, it's still, when I'm recording this, very early on a Saturday. By Saturday evening and Sunday morning, all of the full props. And if you do get the package at SharpStack right now. Again, code Mayo50. There's two givers. There's one that's 50% off, one that's 5% off, 50% off the monthly, 25% off the annual subscription. That also gets you all the DFS, all the season long, all the league sync, all the projections, and the SharpStack tool, and access to the Discord where Noonan's got his tackle props, and Noonan's tackle props have been absolutely amazing. So if you're not looking to do, the SharpStack app is great for identifying plays and giving you the tools to do your own research, much like the DFS optimizer. If you want to set your own projections and project them out that way, you can control as much or as little as you want with this. So Mayo50 on the monthly, you can hit the description and find the direct links to go do that right now. All right, let's move over to the DFS side for DraftKings. And you can get the 25% off the annual DFS package as well. It has all of Squirrel Patrol's, one of the top 10 DFS player in the world, Showdown, regular slate, NFL content, plus all the tools. And that's what I really love to see because, I like losing money on my own time and doing it my own way. And you can see Jaden Daniels is out. So just taking a look at the quarterbacks, where are we getting a lot of the stacks coming from? Geno Smith. Tambo and I broke this down in complete moves on Friday. with how we build with Geno Smith, how we build with Caleb Williams. But as you can see, they're the two top projected owned quarterbacks at the moment, and they're playing in the same game. So that game is going to be absolutely overloaded. We spent a ton of time on that game and how to get different if you want to go there. After him, Daniel Jones, Matt Stafford playing against each other. The ownership projections will once again update Saturday evening with news, and again on Sunday morning to be finalized. If you want to check back then, that's how you get in. Code Mayo gets you that 25% off. Mayo 50% off if you want to get in on these tools. And there are also other things. If you go up to the top banner, you can find the ownership projections in full. And one thing you can do is find out the passing game stacks for these ones right now. And again, these will get updated in real time. You get FanDuel and DraftKings on here. The Los Angeles Rams, Las Vegas Raiders, Chargers, Colts, and Falcons are looking like the three highest owned passing attacks right now. It's QB, wide receiver, and tight end. A lot of the Falcons is Kyle Pitts, just because people are using him because he's a bit cheaper and they want access to that game somehow. It's funny that the Saints are up here because you have so many jabroni Saints, that the Saints passing attack is going to be used more than the Bills passing attack. That is another one that Tambo and I went down in full of how to utilize the Bills this week, whether it be with Josh Allen or whether it be with James Cook, who, when we take a look back over at the ownership projections and value at running back, we see that, McCaffrey's going to be super highly owned, then Omari and Hampton, then Jonathan Taylor, then James Cook, then Cam Scadaboo. They're all right around that 15 and up, with McCaffrey pushing like 30%. I think Scadaboo is going to come in even higher because he's the cheapest of all of these guys. He is the best cheap option at $5,500 on DraftKings. James Cook at 71. He projects to be a great value. Look at how much more valuable Christian McCaffrey is, even in GPPs at his ownership, versus the next best option, which is Bijan, who's going hilariously under-owned. He's going to be under half of what McCaffrey's owned if you wanted to make that pivot. Then Cook, then Scadaboo, then Hampton. And then in terms of pure value, the best, Chuba Hubbard does rank up there. I don't like him, but if you can get it going on the ground, if you can get it going through the receiving game, then we have a little bit of a better look here. If we're finding some like low-owned options, if you think that the Browns can keep up with the Lions in this game and it's not an absolute blowout, then Judkins is going to get his like 15 to 20 carries in this game. That's what we've been seeing from him on the ground. If he can gash a little bit, he's going to be looking pretty good at only $5,500, a 1v1 pivot off of Scadaboo. If he can find the end zone, they've been giving him the ball down there. You just have to hope that they don't get game scripted early. He's only coming in at 3%, so he's coming in at like 1/5 the ownership of Scadaboo as well. But if they fall behind early, he's not playing a ton. You're just going to see Jerome Ford on the field. That is the issue that you have with it. We talked about the Rams in that overall ownership of the passing game. So between Stafford, Puka, Devontae, whether Tutu Atwell ends up in as a sleeper play as well, should Adams end up sitting out. It's kind of leaving Kyron with a good ownership, but not a ton, at 12.5% owned. That maybe the look in this game is, Jonathan Taylor and Kyron Williams together. That is another build that Tambo and I went through on the Friday show. You can find that on the Mayo Media Network YouTube channel. Subscribe while you're here, smash a like too, or on the podcast feed if you want to hear us talk it out of how to utilize those two guys and what sort of builds that you can put around them to make them both optimized in terms of projected points, but also unique in terms of ownership. We went through all of that. So wide receivers, the most common ones that you're going to find in lineups. No shocker that Puka Nacua ends up not only at the top, he is also at the top of GPP value this week as well. When we take a look at it, it's him, then Jacoby Myers, Drake London, three of the higher owned guys. Trey Tucker, still a very good GPP value, and he's not projecting for a ton. I think that's going to be off when we get the finalized ownership projections. That if everyone's stacking up that game anyway, you're going to see a lot of Trey Tucker in there at $4,200 because he just makes so much work that I think that Myers will come down and Tucker will go up in that circumstance, and maybe even meet in the middle of right around 15%. Ricky Purcell is at the fifth best GPP value. Keenan Allen, Deebo Samuel, Olave, Romadunze. There's Devontae Adams. We'd see how that would work if he ended up being out. Again, I think that Tutu Atwell would end up coming up pretty well. What's he at right now? 3,000. He's the min. You don't have to play him just because he's the min. There's other options that you can take this week if you want to save money. Trey Tucker being one of them. We get to the Chargers at tight end for a second. That's another spot that you can go. Using Scadaboo over three big tight ends or running backs is another opportunity that you can find. But if you can make that late swap, Tutu Atwell, because it's in the late set of games, if you don't know about Devontae Adams, getting all getting all my old receivers who catch a ton of touchdowns very confused that if he does not end up going, he's just not going to be highly owned because not enough people late swap. You can make that move and open up McCaffrey in the late set of games if you want to, if he wasn't in a lineup like that. So it's one way that you can play it. At tight end, we're looking at who's going to be number one. Tyler Warren, number one, as a part of that Indy Rams game stack. Hunter Henry, Brock Bowers, Juwan Johnson at 42. That's where I would go, honestly. Juwan Johnson at 42 is a pretty good look, and there are two very good options near the bottom. A few very good options near the bottom if you really do want to save money. You have Brenton Strange at $3,200 against the 49ers. That is a pretty good spot to go into. The other one, I mean, we've talked about Oronde Gadsden on this show already. He projects right around like 1 to 5%. I think that, listen, at $2,600, if you need to save some money, you can do that. The other one would be Tommy Tremble. He has a negative GPP ownership with Jatavion Sanders out, probably because he plays for Carolina. But again, 1% owned, $2,700. If you are in need of saving money, this is the spot to go to do that. It's a onesie position. Brock Bowers and Tyler Warner, the two big ones on this slate. And if they don't score a touchdown, it could be completely up in the air that even if the Trembles or the Orondes of the world end up scoring like 3 to 5 points, you might not be in that big of a hole. If Warren, Henry, and Bowers, if those guys don't end up with like 20 plus points, they end up with like 13, the money that you have saved at tight end just by using those other losers, even if they score 0 points, might be worth it for what you can make up at other positions if that's the way that you want to go. If we just optimize some lineups, we can take a look at this for a second. Let's go analysis. You can go hand build your lineups if you want. I'm just going to just do 3 right now. This, again, will update in real time. So let's see. Marcus Mariota, Chuba Hubbard, Christian McCaffrey, Puka, Luke McCaffrey, Tet McMillan, Zach Ertz. So a lot of Commanders and a lot of Panthers because they're so cheap. Brock Bowers at the flex, so double tight end there, double tight end in the bottom one as well. You'll see optimizers do that a lot. All you need to do is go into your build settings and just click that off, that you do only want a... When you can either use your presets, you can use your team stacks or your player groups, and you can just tell it, hey, I don't want to use a tight end in my flex spot, and then it won't give you a tight end in your flex spot anymore if that's the route that you want to end up going to. So you can find all of that on 4for4.com right now. You can use code Mayo50 and get 50% off the monthly membership. Code Mayo gets you 25% off all of the packages on the annual plan. But if you get that SharpStack app, you get access to everything on the site for 7 days for free. And then with Mayo 50% off per month. And that includes the app, the Discord, all those DFS tools, season-long fantasy, all the projections, completely customizable. Like I said, if there's anyone who wants to do their own work, you can do it in there. Or if you want to let the machines do the work for you, you can do that as well. Again, I will be sending out this show with updated info later on Saturday evening and updating it again on Sunday morning. So sub to the Mayo Media newsletter for free down in the description right now. It'll get sent directly to your inbox. You can also find it along with my updated rankings at 4for4.com on Saturday. All right, the ranks list is down in the description right now. Smash the like, and if you got any questions, dump them in the comment section. I'll get back to them by Sunday morning. Promise you on that one, okay? I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!